Vladimir Putin declines Trump's proposal on a ceasefire in Ukraine, then Donald Trump will impose even more tougher sanctions on Russian economy. Trump will inflict even more pain on Russia. That's how Donald Trump will force Vladimir Putin to a negotiating table. And for the first time, Trump also criticized Vladimir Putin for not agreeing with a ceasefire proposal. Trump says that Vladimir Putin is destroying his own country by not agreeing with a ceasefire proposal, because Russian economy now is in a free fall. Russian economy is suffering because of the Western sanctions imposed after the full-scale invasion of Ukraine, and that's how Donald Trump will force Vladimir Putin to negotiating table. Meanwhile, Pentagon continues to sending military aid to Ukraine despite Donald Trump's campaign trail rhetoric. Ukraine still receives US aid from the Pentagon. So according to Pentagon, despite recent executive orders from Donald Trump, Pentagon still providing Ukraine with military equipment, and this shows a significant U-turn in Donald Trump's policy on Ukraine, because during the campaign trail, Donald Trump said that he will not support Ukraine, but here is a big U-turn. Donald Trump will not only support Ukraine, he will force Vladimir Putin to negotiate from a position of weakness. He will force Vladimir Putin to negotiate with Ukraine and to reach a ceasefire deal which will be favorable for Ukrainians, for Ukrainian people, and for the Ukrainian government. That's how these things will work. And Donald Trump has issued an ultimatum for Vladimir Putin. Either you agree with a ceasefire proposal, or your country will suffer even more, because more tougher sanctions will be imposed on Russian economy. Moreover, Donald Trump is ready to provide Ukraine with significant amount of security assistance. Trump's team is now considering an option about providing Ukraine with additional weaponry. Meanwhile, European allies are ready to buy European equipment and to use their own resources to allocate money for US aid for Ukraine, and they will buy American weaponry which will be delivered to Ukraine. That's how US aid for Ukraine could be continued for a while to help Ukraine to ensure better positions on the international stage. At the same time, Pete Hegseth and other Trump's nominees have been confirmed by the US Senate. So Donald Trump will continue his work, and he will call Vladimir Putin Russian dictator, Vladimir Putin, and he'll issue him another ultimatum, but personally by phone. At the same time, Bloomberg reported that European allies are asking Donald Trump to commit US troops on the ground in Ukraine as a part of a peacekeeping forces mission. So French President Emmanuel Macron and British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has been considering deploying troops to Ukraine to ensure to properly enforce a ceasefire deal. These troops will be deployed to the front line. They will not attack Russia, but they will stay within the front lines, and such troops could be the best security guarantees for Ukraine, because Russia is not so dare to attack NATO troops. Russia will not attack such troops, and that's how European allies can ensure Russia will not invade Ukraine again in the future. But European allies are confident US commitment to this mission is crucial. That's why European allies, on the other hand, are ready to deploy the most part of troops to Ukraine and are ready to pay for this mission. However, they ask Trump to deploy at least several thousand American troops, because in such scenario it will look more confident and more important and more stable for European allies to conduct this peacekeeping mission alongside with the American allies, and this decision will only unite NATO members. Also, at the same time, Reuters reported about Vladimir Putin's biggest frustration on Russia's economy, on the state of Russian economy. So Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is frustrated about the state of Russia's economy, and this information has been confirmed by the Reuters sources which participated in the meeting with Vladimir Putin. They have saw his frustrated face, his sad face because of the Russian economy. As we know, for the first time, Western sanction has started to inflict pain on Russia because the growth of Russia's GDP has been slowed down by sanctions. The interest rate is so high in Russia, more than 20%, and there is a high inflation rate in Russia and high unemployment rate right now. That's why Vladimir Putin is so frustrated and is so sad about the state of the Russia's economy, and it is really wise decision for Donald Trump to use this weak point of Vladimir Putin, weak place of Vladimir Putin, this weak point to force him to negotiating table by also threatening more sanctions against Russian economy, by strengthening to put Russia's economy on its knees, because Russia's economy is already on a back foot, is already struggling, is already on a, also is already struggling to achieve any kind of results. That's how Donald Trump can force Putin to negotiate with Ukraine in good faith and to end this war with a ceasefire deal on appropriate, on favorable for Ukrainian terms. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, stay with us on YouTube, and glory to Ukraine.